What's up, everybody? This is Erica from the Classy Climb blog coming to you guys tonight. After a long day of different phone calls with several clients today, I crammed in a bunch today. I crammed in a bunch yesterday too. I was going to say that wanting to quit your job is not enough reason. Sorry, I got a little background noise here. Wanting to quit your job is not enough reason, right? And people are going to say, no, Erica, I hate my boss. I hate my job. I'm ready to get out of there. I want to quit. Here's the flip side. There's a lot of people, I think what has happened is there's a lot of people saying, well, there's racism, there's these things, I can't get ahead. And some people are stuck, not necessarily, but metaphorically, in these 10 to 15 to $20 an hour jobs. But if you have in your head, okay, this percent of my paycheck goes to stocks and investments and my down payment for my rental in a year, like your mindset's completely different. I meet people who are older and working these types of jobs, and you know what? They don't care. Their mindset is they're investing. They're going on and do something else shortly. So a lot of people say, well, Erica, I want to have a business because I hate my job. Well, if you quit your job, you might hate your new boss, which is you. Because at the end of the day, you have to have clients, you have to have a system, you have to have a way of going about things. And you have to have a plan, right? They're just a plan. Like I'm talking to people and they just don't even have a plan. That makes me quite nervous. So here's some things I wanted to touch on tonight. Okay, so listen. Let's say you have a $50,000 job or a $100,000 job. Many of you will say, well, Erica, somebody has a $100,000 job. Why would they quit? Hey, Irvin Thomas, the reason they would quit is I meet people all the time who have government jobs near Fort Bragg, North Carolina, near Killeen, Texas. They're in a government office and a government job making $100,000 and they hate it. And they're counting down the days so they can retire. I mean, they're counting down the days and they're like, boy, when I leave here, it's going to be so different. Right? And you're like, all right, we'll start planning now, right? You got to start planning now for your escape and what you need financially to make it, right? Because I was talking to one guy and he was like, oh man, I want all these rentals. And I was like, well, what's your number now? Well, I only make 50 a year. I'm like, well, you could leave your job for, 5 rental properties. You can leave your job in 10 rental properties, 10 rental properties. Give you an example. I've been talking with people who they do a lot of turnkey, and they do turnkey around $50,000 mark. So your entry level at 20% with a mortgage is $10,000. Now their rental rates are anywhere from $675 to $850. But look, imagine if you had 10 of those. If you had 5 of those, you're getting about $3,500 a month. You got 10 of those, you're getting $6,000, almost $7,000 a month. That's a totally, I mean, at the end of the year, that's a $40,000 to $80,000 a year life off rental properties alone. But what happens is a lot of people get new cars, new houses, high levels of debt where they can't even leave their job. So in order for them to think outside the box, it's going to take a minute. Hey, Irvin Thomas, you just go head over to the website and I'll put it in here for you. And you can just pay for a session consultation and we can chat. So basically, I had a friend, photography. He's like, oh man, I just can't quit my job off photography. Can't do it. I'm like, yes, you can. You totally can. An average wedding in this part of Texas may be different where you are. For a photographer, is $2,000 to $3,000 for your time and your services. If you book a weekend a month, just in the summer, maybe 16 to 20 weddings, that's a $40,000 to $60,000 a year life. Pretty good for a photographer. But what happens is people have these high student loan debts, high credit card debt, brand new cars. You got to get that debt down. I mean, that's where Dave Ramsey wins so many people, is because I meet people who have $850 a month car payments. Now, you're not even taking the fact that insurance is probably $200 a month. That's crazy, dude, on a car. That's just crazy, right? So anyway, daycare, right? I had a friend who started a daycare. I think she started out with like 5 kids and her 2, and then it went to 10. But at the end of the year, she's making $60,000, $70,000 a year off of daycare, off an extra house that her mom was living in. Her mom, lives with her now, and they just converted it to a daycare. There's so many opportunities for you to kind of switch your life or switch your job, but it all requires a system. It requires more than just, I want to quit. Part of the reason I try so hard in business is it's just the way I am. It's just the way I'm geared, right? But 2, when I see my young nephews and I see my sister, who also has a business, she has a hair salon, and I see our other family members go, man, I really respect those girls because they stay they stay creative, they stay positive, they stay working, they have businesses. And a little bit even jump back to my cousin who hired me at 14 at his dollar store. So even he had the mindset of a business in his younger age, right? Because I think he's maybe 15 years older than me, 20 years, possibly. But at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's a thought process and it's a system. And I talk to you guys, I want to quit my job. Welcome to the club. Lots of people want to quit their jobs, but there has to be a balance in, I want to quit my job and I have money to cover all these bills, right? Because you don't want to just get by. You want to also prosper. You want to take your kids on vacations. You want to have a life that you can love. And it's important to, one, get the debts down, and two, get the assets up. So let's say you do have to stay in your job another 24 months. What could you be doing in that time frame? Is there a book you want to write? Is there a show you want to produce? You know, I have friends who follow their kids around on YouTube, and it's kind of funny because that's the most popular thing right now on YouTube is like family channels. And so just her, you know, weekly or bi-weekly thing she was putting out started to get all this traction. It was pretty cool. But it was just her talking about how to make time for cooking and like kind of the, not necessarily homeschool, but more how do you get your kids more like in tutoring and get them a more diverse kind of life, right? And so that's just one of those things I love her show about. But I love talking to you guys when I do consults with y'all, but wanting to quit your job is not enough. It has to be this big why. It has to be this like, I want my life to look like A, B, and C. And here's a good one for you guys. I want you guys to take out a piece of paper. I want you to write down what does your life look like in 5 years, and what does your life look like in 10 years? And if you're 30, then what does it look like at 40? If you're, 40, what does it look like at 50? Because what's happening is a high range of people being unemployed is 45 to 54. So now they're at a time period where they thought, I'm going to retire in a few years. But they never put the plan into action. So now they're stuck in this moment where they have to work. And I remember going to, I think, Jimmy John's, and this woman was clearly like 60, 70 years old. And I'm thinking, she's a delivery driver. She probably did not plan for this. Right? Same thing when I see nurses at the hospital. Hey, you feel useful, but at some point as a nurse, I would hope at 70 years old, yeah, you love doing what you do, but you want to go do something else. So I love talking to y'all. I love the mentality of wanting to quit your job. It's good. But also there's got to be something internal that shows you that in order for me to get to that 5-year mark I'm writing on this piece of paper, and that 10-year mark I'm writing on this piece of paper, I have to work my way back to it. I've got to figure out what steps do I need to take to get there, right? So if I say in 10 years, I'll be in my 40s or whatever. In 10 years, I want this many kids, my husband in this house, and we travel, frequently, and we have, a food service person come in once a month in service or something. I don't know, write down what is your dream, right? And so in order to do that, I have to work it back. I have to go, what did it need to happen at the 5-year mark for this to be true? Oh, one, married with the kids, right? Or, this amount of money, right? And so work it back to this year. What can I do this year to make that 10-year goal a reality? And if it's for you, if you want to transition from your job to a business, okay, well, what systems do I need to have in place? And a really good thing I like doing is I take the handbook right from work. And I think people think that's funny or silly, but I remember working at a company and they had a handbook. I literally borrowed that handbook and wrote it up for my little property management office in North Carolina. And my family probably thought, why is she writing this whole book? She only got just her and one employee. Just her, right? Because it sets the standard, it sets the tone that if Erica's not in the room, this still happens. This still can be done. Listen, you guys have any questions, definitely hit me up. I can see you on here. But this can happen. Like this is the procedure if Erica's not in office. This is the procedure if we want something or need something, right? So again, you have a procedure for your work. You should have a procedure for your life. What are we doing this year to get us there? What are we doing this month to get us there? What are we doing weekly to get us there? And because if you look at a lot of people's lives, if you talk to them 5 years later, I kid you not. I mean, Facebook is awesome for this. You talk to people 5 years later, they are doing the same exact thing just 5 years later. Whether it's kids, whether it's a job, whether it's a certain type of life, you bump back into them 5 years later, they are doing the same thing. And my friend laughed. He's like, people always on Facebook seeing other people's vacations and travels. I was like, yeah, because some of them will never travel. And this is how they see the world. This is how they view life, right? Because they haven't decided, well, what does it take for me to travel like that? What does it take for me to go over there? And it's just important. So wanting to quit your job is not enough. Other than wanting to quit your job or wanting to travel, like, you have to have a kind of marker for what it looks like. So if I were you tonight, I would just brainstorm and dream. If I didn't have to go to work tomorrow, what would my life look like and what would be this week? And I remember a friend telling me she would just make time to go to her yoga class at 11 and she could have a long lunch. And I can't remember what all she said, but it was kind of funny, but it was her day and it was her dream. And I'm proud of her for sharing that with me, because that was her ideal of her life if she didn't have to go to work the next day. So it's possible. It's America. Anything is possible. So figure out, write it down. What would your day look like? How would you spend time with your kids, your spouse, or whoever? And what's your real big why? And some of the books I'll recommend tonight is The One Thing by Gary Keller, The 4-Hour Work Week. There are several blogs out there I would love to recommend. There's a Black woman who, she was going through the middle of a divorce and she decided to take her and her 3 kids to Dubai. So she teaches English, or she's a teacher out there in Dubai. And I love the fact that she didn't let having 3 kids stop her from traveling the world, helping them experience the world, and them have a little YouTube channel. So look, it is up to you. Your life can look like this again in 5 more years or 10 years, or it can completely change. But you guys, wanting to quit your job is not for no reason. So that's all for tonight. Guys, it's Erica, Classy Climb Blog. You guys have a great, absolutely great New Year and a great night.